strong.
Chapter 301, Debt Collection. Ye Fusion asked Nandu Wenshan if he wanted to become the emperor of Nandu. When was the emperor of the Nandu kingdom determined by Ye Fusion? Even if Nan Dao Tai set foot in the royal family today, he would not dare to think like that, and not to mention Luo Tianzi. Luo Junlin is now back with a powerful king palace, and Nan Dao Guo might even become the king of 100 countries. Ye Fusion asked Nandu Wenshan casually, this. You're reckless. Lord Luo stood up, pointed his finger at Ye Fusion, and said coldly, crazy person. Ye Fusion glanced at each other, and said, I was in the Luo King Palace, and I was fighting with Zhou Mu. Did you step or attack? He did not dare to ask at that time, where he still cared. I don't understand what you're saying, Lord Luo said coldly. I'll ask you to clear up later. Ye Fusion glanced at him and continued to stare at Nandu Wenshan. Well, the Nandautai vein will no longer exist. Anyone involved in the incident at the end of the year 2 years ago will be safe, as long as you agree that after liquidation, you will be in charge of the Nandu kingdom, and the Nandu family after the purge can still be the king of the Nandu kingdom. Ye Fusion can't completely destroy the Nandu family. Vajayu himself is the lifeblood of the Nandu royal family, and the teacher and mother beat them. Brother, this is your ancestral inheritance, you can inherit it. Nandu Wenning also said. The words of the two made the people around him look dignified. If Ye Fusion is arrogant, what about Nandu Wenning? Okay. Nan Dao Wenshan nodded, he is the lifeblood of the royal family. If he could control Nan Dao Guo, he would definitely be willing. And he also knew that Nan Dao Tai was ready to face him. He had been watching her for the past 2 years. After entering the return of the prince, he occasionally looked at him, and was already thinking about killing. Well, you and your sister-in-law are there, and everyone who participated in that year's event, you can help me. Ye Fusion said. Okay. Nan Dao Wenshan continued to nod. Of course, he knew that Ye Fusion couldn't let go of the people who participated on that day. That day was too sad for Ye Fusion. He was alone, in the realm of glory, entered the Nandu family, and wanted to exchange the support of the Nandu family with a unique talent, but Nandu Tai refused. Next, Hua Xiang and Nan Dao Tai ordered and slaughtered him. At that time, Ye Fusion was just a teenager. How sad. On that day, Hua Jiu was forced to stab herself with a sharp knife. In order to be with Ye Fusion, he almost died alone, and the smell disappeared. On that day, Ziwei Gongken was a chaotic river and mountain. He played the chaotic rivers and mountains with his life. On that day, Yi Xiang, Ye Fusion, Hua Fengyu, and others were all hunted and almost died together. If they are unlucky, they will not escape from the sky. Now that Ye Fusion is back, how can he let go of the real person? Hua Xiang, Nandu Tai, Ziwei Gongju and others, Ye Fusion will kill, and the cleansing of the Nandu family is inevitable. Where are you confident? Nan Dao Tai stood up, the coercion of the princely country permeated, and the terrifying prince was about to oppress Ye Fusion. He wanted to see where Ye Fusion's spirit came from. Come, Silver Zuwei obeys orders, Ye Fusion said. Yes. The 9 strong people stepped forward and walked behind Ye Fusion. At the same time, the breath of the 9 princes erupted at the same time. Just for a moment, a chilly chill enveloped the vast space. Lord. Everyone just felt scared. The 9 men dressed as guards wearing armor on the back were all princes. Nan Dao Tai's face paled, and his breath faded instantly. Even though he had set foot in the prince realm, the 9 people in front of him were stronger than him. How can he fight? His body trembled slightly, his eyes fixed on Ye Fusion. No, he is not reconciled, he has just stepped into the world of princes, the world of heaven. Nantu Tai and Yan Shao, abolished first, to live. Ye Fusion said again, then saw the light shining, he sat cross-legged, King Ji's soul appeared. Ye Fusion's fingers were placed on the strings, and when he hit the strings, a gurgling sound came out, making the space tremble. Many of the people present were guests at the Nandu family mansion 2 years ago, and in an instant, they knew what Ye Fusion was about to play. 2 years ago, King Lo's playing voice was chaotic. Use this song to practice for you. Ye Fusion said, the practice in his mouth is to send those people to the street. Hua Jiu walked to Ye Fusion and sat down. Mimu quietly watched Ye Fusion play. The uncle's harp came out and continued to climb, as if not giving up on fate in battle. The scene from 2 years ago came to my mind, so vivid. Shigong came from the crane, and said to him, Fusion, Shigong will teach you the last song of the day. Even at that time, his teacher was still very peaceful and kind. The 9 princes stepped out of the sound of the piano, and Nandu Venshan and Nandu Vening came to their side. With your cooperation, stay in place and don't move, Yi Xiang said while glancing at the crowd present. They were all shaking violently and didn't dare to move. Today, Ye Fusion came to collect the debt. Collect debt 2 years ago. The sharp piano sound is very loud. Many people in Nandu's family felt fear in the song. Even Nandu Tai, he saw the prince walking towards him. His eyes fell on Nandu Vening, said, Yin, how did your uncle treat you? Nandu Vening glanced at each other, and said, even though you ruined my life, I still have a grudge, but I still live in the Nandu family, because my surname is Nandu. However, I don't want my daughter to repeat the same mistake, but you have to control Cuyu's life. I said that you have to assign Cuyu to Fu Tian. How do you do it? In the beginning, Fu Tian came to the Nandu family at all costs and wanted to make amends. At that time, you still have a choice. As long as you are willing to support him at that time, you can become the king of the Nandu country in the future. But how do you choose? Kill, you want to kill Fusion, almost died for a while, you can't forgive all this. Nandu Vening said coldly, leave him. Vening, I am your uncle. Nan Daotai saw several princes breathing covering his body, and the terrible cold air froze everything. It was the destruction of the prince's will, the destruction of the kingdom, and he could not compete. It will be crushing, the gap is too big. He found it difficult to move, his body seemed to freeze and his desire to freeze. No, I'm a prince. Nan Daotai shivered, and he didn't want to. To the ear, the melodic melody is very loud. At this time, Nan Daotai thought of that day, King Lo's mountains and rivers were troubled. He remembered that stubborn brat 2 years ago. He was very outstanding, yet he still didn't choose him because he thought it would be easier to kill Ye Fusion. But now, the ice spear pierced the body slightly, nailed Nan Daotai to the throne. Facing the suppression of several high-ranking princes, he had no resistance. With a groan, Nan Daotai was bloodless, suffering, regretful, and afraid. Ye Fusion said that the Nandu family still exists, and Nandu Venshan will be in charge of the Nandu kingdom as the son of heaven. He dreamed of the emperor, he thought he stepped into the prince, and the position of the emperor would be his. All of this is like a sweet dream. He smiled sadly. If he supported Ye Fusion and Hua Jiu, would the Nandu kingdom be his? How so now? When Nandaotai was nailed to the throne, the people on the Nandu family's faces were pale and frightened. Yan Shao was more afraid. He knew very well that Ye Fusion could let anyone go, but he would never let him go. Oh, Yan Shao wanted to run away when his body lit up. But when a prince stepped forward, he covered the world with ice, and instantly froze his body in that place. The room froze, and Yan Shao turned into an ice sculpture. The prince stepped on his palm and fell on the ice statue. The ice cracked, but Yan Shao spat out blood from his mouth. All the organs in his body seemed to be crushed, and his body fell into the air. In a short time, Nandu Tai, the head of the Nandu family, and Yan Shao, the head of the East China Sea Academy, were abolished. Except for the sound of the piano, the room was silent, and the banquet was very ironic. Today, all parties in Donghai city came to congratulate Nan Daotai for setting foot on the prince but did not expect to escort him. Master Luo showed fear, he looked at the scene in horror, his face was pale. Not only him, Mu Hong also had a deep fear at this moment. At first, Hua Fengyu and Ye Fusion came to the door and wanted him to accept Ye Fusion as a disciple, but he refused. His children mocked him. Then, his children and Ye Fusion broke out into conflict. But now, the boy whom he refused to accept as a disciple was afraid that the combat power was not below him. Even more frightening is his current background, he let the 9 kings obey orders. Very sad. He refused to accept as a disciple, and he was ridiculed, but now he is not qualified to be attached. Lin Shu Maimo saw Ye Fusion being played, and Mu was lost for a while. He became more and more extraordinary. At first, he was kind enough to listen to the wind party. However, 1 year later, it was a legend. Father Lin glanced at his daughter and sighed silently. This girl was afraid that he would get deeper and deeper. In the future, how could he tolerate others? Shu Yuyan looked at Ye Fusion and Hua Jiu. She remembered Hua Jiu's appearance in Ziwei Palace when she missed Ye Fusion, like a young girl in love. Looking at these two people now, they really are a pair of gods and brothers. Only when they were together could one feel harmony. Really, bless them. King Yin remained the same, constantly became high-pitched, and screams continued to circulate around him. Nandu Venshan and Nandu Vening began to clean up with the 9 kings. 2 years ago, all those involved in that battle were mercilessly killed. Those who participated in the original event but did not participate in the war, abolished cultivation. Chapter 302, Fine. The Nandu family started to clean up vigorously. All the Donghai city officials present today sat on a blanket of needles and watched every Digmat be killed and annihilated, and their inner feelings could be imagined. The high-pitched piano sound still seems to be perfectly integrated in this scene. Ye Fushun not only cleaned up the Nandu family, he also wanted to kill Luo Tianzi and replace him with Nandu Wenshan. Nandu Wenshan can become the king of the Nandu country, even if he has not cultivated enough. What is it? Nan Dao Tai was nailed to the chair, seeing what was happening in front of him, only felt his heart spinning. Ye Fushun was still sitting there quietly playing, as if he was not looking at him. At this moment, Nan Dao Tai naturally understood that he was going to die and there was no way to live. Seeing Ye Fushun and Hua Jiu, they are very good. In fact, Nan Dao Tai did not give birth to their thoughts, but he still did not have the courage, especially when he found Ye Fushun's superiority. Luo Tianzi's intention came, and Hua Zhang's level was strong. Come on, he can only kill Ye Fushun. What if he believed that Ye Fushun was gambling? On that day, King Loi and Ye Fushun managed to escape. If coupled with the strength of his Nandu family, he would definitely be able to do it. Perhaps, Nandu Tai could really fulfill his dream and set foot on Nandu's throne. But now, it's just a mirror, a dream. Closing his eyes and the sound of the piano rang out, Nan Dao Tai was desperate and desperate. The same goes for Yan Shao. When he was written off, he looked at Ye Fushun, and he hated him. At that time, Ye Fushun and Hua Jiu were disciples of the East China Sea School, especially Hua Jiu, studying at Zibei Palace, but they had already reached the point where they were now. Let me fight again. Hua Fengyu walked to the front of the painting and said. Okay. Painting Sheng nodded. The two controlled themselves unaffected by Ye Fushun's phonics, and they fought head to head. One played, the other painted, the messy sounds, and the harsh environment formed a chaotic picture. Zhou Mu was confused at this point. Where is the spirit of youth in his youth? His opponent once threw him away for a long time. He stepped on his feet and could not look up. After a long time, the holy battle of King Mo's painting was divided into victories. This time, Hua Fengyu erased the soul and soul of the painting. His finger gently moved the rope, then stopped and looked at his old opponent. You should understand how you beat me. Of course, I know I don't blame you. Zibei Palace wanted you to win, so you won, and teacher failed to stop. For this reason, teacher has always felt guilty for me, so it's for me. Princess and disciple, the teacher sacrificed himself. Hua Sheng smiled bitterly. Of course he knew and always knew, so he did not overcome the joy of love flowers, and never showed off. But that humiliating victory became a classic battle that Donghai city enjoyed. Everyone around them showed a faint color. I didn't expect that there was still such a shady battle. Romantic flowers, never said in public, without explanation, everyone thought he was defeated. To this day, he won the truth after defeating the painting master. Finally, Ye Fushun's piano sound stopped, the cruel repression gradually ended, the Nandu family fell apart, and many strong men in Zibei Palace were destroyed. Well, the Nandu family will leave it to you for repair. Ye Fushun said, and then came over, take the two of them to the East China Sea Academy. With that said, Ye Fushun turned around and walked out. There were many people who knew today, but at the moment he did not have such thoughts. After bringing Nan Dao Tai and Yan Shao, the group returned directly to the East China Sea Academy. At this moment, the frozen Zibei Palace was spectacular, like a spectacle. The disciples of the East China Sea Palace all gathered under the Zibei Palace, watching the frozen mountain and the statue of the old man playing above the Zibei Palace. Many people don't even know who he is, but I still heard someone say that it was the senior who played Messi in the Nandu family 2 years ago. He sacrificed himself and saved Ye Fushun. They're back. At this time, the crowd made a commotion, and in the void, Ye Fushun and others came back from the mighty, holding Nan Dao Tai and Ziwei Gong Yan Shao, and many felt just trembling. Nan Dao Tai, today's prince. Yan Shao is at the helm of the East China Sea Academy. They could be said to be the most powerful figures in Donghai city, but they were brought into Zibei Palace like ants. Then, they were restrained and knelt before the old Qin statue. Ye Fushun, please give me a lot. King Lao is also my brother. Your master will also call me Uncle Hua Fengyu. Yan Shao said in fear. He was really afraid. Not only did he face death, Ye Futian also wanted him to kneel before the statue of King Lao forever, and if he died, he would not be able to wash away his sins and be banished by generations to come. Generation. Ye Fushun didn't bother Yan Shao, and now he knows the relationship between them. After Shi's death, the bones were burned, and the yard where the ashes were laid was left unattended and overgrown with weeds, and became a deserted forbidden area. Yan Shao, have you ever thought that it was his brother? Brother was killed by his party. Master, after them, the surnamed Luo and Hua Xiang will also kneel here and confess. Ye Fuxian looked at the statue and said coldly, "Ice them." Yin Zhuwei nodded, and an extremely cold breath fell on the two, and an extreme ice-based spell fell on Nan Dao Tai and Yan Shao. No, Nan Dao Tai and Yan Shao trembled in fear, but they were clearly in vain, and soon they turned into two ice statues, knelt in front of the old man's statue, and repented. Ye Fuxian looked at the statue and said nothing for a long time. This time, he returned to Donghai city, but it was a little worrying. Now, there was only Luo Junlin and his father and Hua Xiang. They are the leaders behind everything. Senior Yi, in charge of the East China Sea Academy, Ye Fuxian asked. I'm coming, Yi Xiang said, I live in Tokai Academy. He looked at the wider world, but he also discovered that one's talent was indeed cursed. He was very old and had limited growth. In the future, he intends to stay at the East China Sea Academy and teach his younger generation. Zhu Palace would no longer appear in a place that was greedy for power. Zugong is a place to teach and educate people, and a place to contribute to future generations. He is willing to stay in Donghai Zugong to donate his strength. Ye Fuxian looked at him, Tang Lan and the rest of his life stepped forward and shouted, Teacher. Father. Yi Qingshuan's eyes were also thick. Yi Xiang smiled and said, I am old, screaming, how can I follow you, who, all my life, and Qingshan will give it to you in the future. I can have such a great disciple in this life, and I don't care. Life this. Are you confused? Ye Fuxian looked at Ye Zhangdao. What is your brain thinking, and how can you thrive in a small place like Donghaicheng? Yi Xiang glared at him and said, what does your son know? Since Donghai city is a small place, I have lived. I have seen a lot in the past 2 years. I have broadened my horizons. In Donghai city, I can expand children the young. Vision, let them not be limited to the world in front of them, there must be a distant sky in their life. Moreover, there are enough examples of you, I have boasted about it in Donghai Zugong, fooling those young people, enough to inspire them. Yi Xiang said with a smile. Ye Fuxian was speechless. He knew what Yi Zhang's character was. Since he had made up his mind, he was afraid that he could not change it. If you get tired after that, remember to come to us. Ye Fuxian didn't suggest anymore. Well, now dare to talk to me like this when the wings are stiff, don't ignore me in the future. Yi Xiang looked at Ye Fuxian. How dare you? Ye Fuxian rolled his eyes, then saw Yi Xiang turn around and take a step forward. Suddenly, many eyes fell on him below the Zhuwei Palace. Yi Xiang looked around the crowd below and said, I am the former Yi Xiang of Wuku Palace, but now I have decided to return to Tokai Academy. Master Igam. Gongju. Many people in the former Wuku Palace showed excitement. Do their Gongju back, and in this context. I know you are very confused about what happened today, and some people are angry. Yi Xiang looked at the people and said loudly, 2 years ago, my Wuku Palace disciple Ye Fuxian and Zhuwei Palace disciple Hua Xiu fell in love. At the time, they were so amazing that you must have heard them all. Later, because of the relationship with Zhuwei Palace, Hua Xiang strongly forced Zhuwei Palace to oppress other palaces and take control of the entire East China Sea Academy. Ye Fuxian and I left. After that, Luo Tianzi wrote a copy of the book, asked Ye Fuxian to be a book prince and let Wajiu become a concubine. So creepy and doesn't require me to say anything. Who can stand it? The Nandu family and the owners of Zhuwei Palace helped us in their abuse. For power and ambition, where do they care about a few younger generations? www.mtlnovel.com. We rebelled. For this purpose, King Lao played music and died. Run away, Ye Fuxian and Hua Xiu almost killed each other, but fortunately they left, and you should have heard what happened then. Nan Dao Guo heard of Ye Futian's wine party and the rest of his life. Who can be compared to Nan Dao Tian? It also proves everything more, said Nan Dao, the land of hundreds of countries, can people compare him with Ye Fuxian? Today, Ye Fuxian and Hua Jiu are both top disciples in the eastern wasteland, but these two people were almost forced to death by the Nandu kingdom in Zhuwei Palace. For the palace, Yi Zhanglang said, I didn't come back because I wanted the power of the East China Sea Academy. Ye Fuxian and the rest of my life are like my students. I followed them in Donghang Academy, and in East China Academy. I don't need to say more about the pros and cons. However, Donghai Zugong is my home, where I have lived for half of my life. I hope that Donghai Zugong is strong. I want my youth in Donghai Prefecture to be strong, and I want to see something different. Donghai Zugong. So I stayed. At this time, Yi Xiang was full of truth, and Tokai Zugong's disciples were speechless. Then, a voice came out, "Disciple has seen Lord Yagong. I have seen Master Yagong." The voices came out one after another, and then they shook the sky. There is truth in the world and truth in oneself. Even though Tokai Zugong's disciples are young, they can still judge right from wrong. At the time of Ye Fuxian's crisis, Yi Xiang, the leader of Wuku Palace, gave up his position as the ruler of Wuku Palace, risked his life, and brought Ye Fuxian to enter the Nandu family to fight against injustice. Now that Ye Fuxian became famous, he could fly Huang Tengda away, but he had given up. He is willing to return to the East China Sea, stay at the East China Sea Academy, and teach future generations. Yi Xiang, what a big husband. Chapter 303, Let Go. Nandu Wenshan reorganized the Nandu family, and Yi Xiang reorganized the East China Sea Academy. Stepping into the princely realm, Nan Daotai, who had been celebrated by all parties, died, and Yan Shao, the main owner of Ziwei Palace, died. After death, the two of them turned into ice statues, kneeling before the old prince of Ziwei Palace. The paintings of the Luo and Shengshu gods were removed, and many powerful people were exiled, or eliminated, in the palaces of the Nandu family in Donghai Academy. All this happened in one day, and the entire East China Sea shook and boiled. Donghai city has never had an event of this magnitude. If there is a big event that can be compared to today, I am afraid that only when Luo Tianzi's decree came to the East China Sea 2 years ago. What is happening now is a continuation of the incident 2 years ago. Ye Fuxian's name once again rang through the East China Sea. Several years ago, the people of Donghai city heard Ye Fuxian's name because he was a violent demon disciple, and defeated the painting saint disciple Zhou Mu in front of the Ziwei Palace of the Donghai Learning Academy. Since then, whenever they heard that name, they would feel it in their hearts. Shake. The emperor proclaimed the cover of his book, Ye Fuxian retaliated, and fled. Nan Dukuo heard the wind party, Ye Fuxian growled with a stick, and roared for the rest of his life. No one knew Nan Dukuo. Later, rumors about him came from the faraway country of Oba, and it was said that he was accepted as a disciple by the main force in a faraway place. Today he returned with the prince. He said with words that Nandu Tai who set foot in the world of the prince died, Yan Shao, the owner of Ziwei Palace, died, and the East China Sea was overturned. He said that he wanted to make Mount Wado Yunnan the emperor of the Nandu kingdom. At this moment, he was in the deserted King Garden. Shigong's problem had always been a thought weighing on him, and now it was there. The Nandu family and Tokai Zugong's side had their own uncle and predecessor Yi Xiang to deal with. Kenyun, the breeze, sat in the courtyard with a friendly feeling. Teacher, sister-in-law, let's stay in Kenyun for a few days, and then leave directly for the Nandu kingdom and settle the affairs of the Nandu kingdom. Ye Fuxian said, after all, Donghai city is the territory of the Nandu kingdom, before Luo Tianzi was not settled. For the sake of safety, he will not return to Kangye. Okay. They wanted to stay here for a few days. I still don't understand one thing. How did they die after chasing and killing our vice president Ha Mo and Chiafang, the governor of Tokai prefecture? Ye Fuxian asked this question. Yi Zhangye, I don't know, he deliberately asked. Neither of them killed Chiafang and Ha Mo. According to Yi Xiang, the two men were chasing them at that time. It's strange, indeed. Flower Mary was a bit confused. Ye Fuxian looked at the willow branch swaying outside the courtyard, thought of the old man sweeping the ground in King Garden, and understood something. But he was confused. Since he was always there, why didn't he appear in the Nandu family? Wasn't he dead that a real father wouldn't show up? Did Ha Mo and Chiafang die because they actually threatened his life? If the right father did it, then where is the right father now? Still looking at him. The next day, Nandu Garden Wenshan Laikan said that the situation of the Nandu family was now improved, but with the help of Yan Zuwei, the power of the Nandu family was completely in his hands. This is not a fool. Now that this situation was based on Nandao Wenshan, it meant that Ye Fuxian was the background. Not to mention, Ye Futian can let the Nandao family regain control of the Nandao country. Under such circumstances, how could they not support him? Nanduan Mountain. Nandu Wenshan, he is a descendant of the royal family. Besides Nandu Wenshan, Shu Yuan also came over, chatted with Hua Jiu, and made some jokes about Ye Fuxian. Lin Xiu also came, he said, and he departed for the Nandu King city. He wanted to see Ye Fuxian and Luo Junline's battle with his own eyes. He will support Ye Fuxian. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. The day that Ye Fuxian and Luo Junline finally agreed, Today was the day of the decisive battle. On this day, Nandu-King City, during a storm, I don't know how many strong people have arrived. According to the people in the Nandu-King City, many mysterious strong men have appeared recently. Their temperament is extraordinary, and the people around them are terrible. Those people were likely powerful people from afar, rumored to be a superpower in the deserts of the Middle East. From that day on, Ye Fuxian forcibly broke into Nandu Palace and took Ye Lingxi and Ye Dungeon. Various rumors spread in the palace. It was said that the emperor of the Yanchu kingdom who sent Ye Dungeon to the Nandu Palace had now surrendered to the Nandu kingdom, but Ye Fuxian's return was no weaker than the King Monarch Palace behind Luo Junline. Don't pay people. It was for this reason that Ye Fuxian and Luo Junline would have this decisive battle. Luo Tianzi announced to the outside that in this battle, Prince Luo Junline would cut the leaves and abandon everything, and it seemed that he had complete trust in Luo Junline. The people in the Nandu-King City were also willing to believe the news he released. After all, Luo Junline is the legendary prince of the Nandu kingdom and twin souls. Amazing, impossible to catch up. In this battle, Ye Fuxian is afraid of being forced to fight. Of course, there was also little news that Ye Fuxian entered the 6 kings of the Nandu King Palace that day, and cut off Yanchu and the other 6 emperors and left, but many people hated the news. The 6 princes, how can it be said to be cut off? However, many Tianzi figures know that the news is true. Naturally, the people of the Nandu kingdom would not know what was happening in other kingdoms, but how could some celestial men in the land of hundreds of countries not know? On this day, there were too many strong people in the outer area of the Nandu King Palace, including the top troops from the east. Everyone was talking about the fight between Luo Junline and Ye Fuxian. Who can win? In the area near the palace, there is an open wine restaurant. At this time, the crowd is bustling, because the people from the Kangye kingdom have arrived. Zhu Peng came, and Kangye Goi Tianzi came. Ye Fuxian hasn't come yet, they are waiting here. It's Ye Wuchen. Someone in the distance looked at one of the youths. Ye Wuchen listened to the wind party, and he had a good reputation in Nandu King City. Liu Feiyang and Liu Shenyu's temperament is also very brilliant, and there are many people talking about it. These people may be from the superpowers of the Eastern Wasteland. At this moment, a distant figure stepped forward. This group of people is extraordinary in temperament. They had sharp breaths and all carried ancient swords. The crowd subconsciously gave way to let them in. After this passerby arrived, his eyes fell on Ye Wuchen's body. The head of the man's eyes is a little cold, broken, and the pride of the first peak of Fuyun Janzong. Li Doin was his teacher. He had consulted him many times, and he had shown many times. But Li Doin had Ye Wuchen's sword post, and then was killed, and the first peak had nothing to say. However, after Ye Wuchen killed Li Doin, he acted in his own way and walked very close to Kotang's disciple Ye Fuxian. He had warned that Ye Wuchen was ignoring him, and the grievances between Fuyun Janzong and Kotang did not know. Not only that, Li Daoyun's favorite woman Willow drowned fish before her death, and Ye Wuchen has a close relationship now, and they are sitting together at this time. Under such circumstances, the people at the first peak were naturally displeased with Ye Wuchen. You came out of Kangye country, these people are your family. Jie Song asked Ye Wuchen. What is it? Ye Wuchen looked up and glanced. Orisong is the sword of the first peak, he is the sword of the 7th peak. Of course, the Zhuwei Zhusong world can't be compared to him. He had been the first peak of Janzi for many years and was known as the first person of the generation of the Fuyun sect. Fuyun Janzong is a sacred place in the eastern Kendo wasteland. I don't want to see Fuyun Janzong's sword used in places like the land of the 100 nations and become a weapon to satisfy selfish desires. Jesong looked at Ye Wuchen and said, Ye Fuxian, I can't control what to do, but Fuyun Janzong can't lose this face. Ye Wuchen's eyes were sharp and he looked towards Zesong. Naturally, he did not have such thoughts, and never intended to use the power of Fuyun Janzong to let Kang Yeguo dominate. Moreover, when did Ye Fuxian have it? Ye Fuxian always planned to settle Nandu's state affairs alone, and never thought of borrowing the name of the thatched cottage, but the killing in Choge city made them understand that Ye Fuxian thinks so, others don't think so, such as How to Be Gentle, Luo Junline www.mtlnovel.com more than a year ago, the Nandu kingdom used the power of the Palace of the Kings of Kings to intimidate Kangye. What would happen if Ye Fuxian became famous and borrowed from the ancient world? Moreover, after that time, Heezalun and Luo Junline refused to stop and committed murder. Then Ye Fuxian challenged Luo Junline. Jie Song's words, puns, both warned him, and also satirized Ye Fuxian's behavior. He underestimated Ye Fuxian's loan. It's not about yourself. Naturally, you can show your strength and power to show your attitude and self-worth. Ye Vachan smiled, and then said nothing. Broken is not Ye Fusion, no relatives are threatened, only spectators. People can naturally pretend to be innocent. Hypocrisy, Liu Fayang whispered. He had seen He Ziro bringing people to Kang Ye, and how desperate Kang Ye was at that time. What would happen if he and Ye Fusion arrived? This didn't happen to Zong Song, so what qualifications did he have? Jesong glanced at the two of them, and Chia next to him also said, I want to see, what if this battle makes Fusion defeated? Of course it can't be defeated. Ye Vachan said, his trust in Ye Fusion was more adequate than others. The seventh order method is relatively war-torn, and the king of the king's palace is coming, and it is not in vain. Jesong said lightly. There was a tremor in the people around him. This pedestrian seemed to be from a strong horizontal force called Fuyun Janzong, and Ye Vachan was also training in it. I think so too. At this time, another voice came, and when the line of figures came, many people gave up. The two they headed were simply extraordinary. One man and one woman, the young man is very beautiful, and the woman is unrivaled in beauty. They move like fairies, and they impress many people and admire beautiful women. Chapter 304, You Can Try. King Li and Chu Yan. Ever since Ye Fusion left Wangu, King Li was proud of his breeze. He went to Wangu to give gifts, and Chu Fei's master Yan Fahong was already excited. On that day, Ye Fusion stepped into the moon sect, and Xiao Yuju's attitude directly contributed to this. Yan Fahong agreed to his marriage to Chu Yi, and agreed for Chu Yi to train at the East Keen Academy for a certain period of time. This incident broke out, causing many waves in the eastern wasteland. Many people speculated that Mo Fei Wezong would join the Qing dynasty. King Li and Chu Zheng came over, saw people like Zisong and Ye Vachan. King Li smiled and said, although Luo Junlin is definitely not as good as the top evildoers in the eastern wasteland, but anyway is also a genius in the Deferred King Temple. He Yulu personally passed down his disciples, and the territory is so big that he has no reason to beat. Ye Tianzi and Ye Lingxi frowned. Obviously, the people who came here were the same as Ye Fusion of the top forces in the eastern wasteland, otherwise they would not dare to comment so arrogantly. And listening to the meaning, Ye Fusion's chances don't seem very good. Before Ye Fusion challenged the Qianshan Twilight outside the East Keen Academy, you thought so too. Ye Vachan said calmly, without looking at Keen Wangsun. King Li said many comments back to Ye Fusion. They were all beaten, but completely unconscious. Of course, he also understands that as an enemy, King Li naturally hopes that Ye Fusion will defeat. King Li didn't care about Ye Vachan's irony, and looked at him with a smile. You Vachan, if you don't know, you think you are an academy student. It's very lively here. A laugh came, and someone came. In the void, a figure fell from the sky. When the people of the Qin and Donghazong dynasties arrived, Qianshan Mu and King Mengruo appeared together, and suddenly caused a shock. Chu Yan was born beautiful. King Mengruo is also a peerless beauty, with various styles of beauty. Once upon a time, this restaurant shone, the sky was so beautiful, and even more terrifying was that those who followed them were strong. Most likely it was a prince. This restaurant not far from the royal palace suddenly became so lively, and gathered all the strong people of the eastern desert. After hearing the news, the crowd outside the palace came to the side, watching the restaurant situation. Luo Tianzi also arrived, and he led Hua Xiang to come. After coming here, Luo Tianzi looked at the people and arched his hand. You came from far away. As the lord of the Nandu kingdom, I must do my best to help the landlord. This place is not polite, and you may want to visit my Nandu palace. Quote. Even if it is a heavenly character, in front of such a group of people, the attitude must be lowered. Okay. King Li smiled and nodded. His attitude made the audience blink. Do they have any hatred for the troops in Ye Fusion? Now who knows the relationship between Ye Fusion and Luo Tianzi? Who is close to Luo Tianzi? What makes Ye Fusion think? Qianshan Mu and King Mengruo cooperated with King Li naturally, and many people suddenly went to Luo Tianzi's side. For a moment, Luo Tianzi's momentum seemed extremely mighty, which made many people show a strange look. It seems that Ye Fusion is not in the east. It doesn't seem so good, otherwise these people don't care about his feelings at all. Brother, let's sit down too. Chiao asked Jesong Si. Ye Tianzi frowned when he saw the scene. He did not understand the situation in Donghang, and did not understand what was happening. Didn't you say you didn't participate in the land of 100 countries? Ye Lingxi whispered. How did Zosong say that not too long ago? Ye Vachan's sword is not allowed to be used in the land of hundreds of countries. Even though Ye Lingzai's voice was very low, Qiao still heard it. He looked up and looked at Ye Lingxi and said coldly, "When is it your turn to speak?" People at the first peak of Fuyun Janzong always have opinions about Ye Wuchen. Now, a woman beside Ye Wuchen dared to speak. Ye Wuchen frowned, and he naturally saw that Qiao was deliberately targeting him, otherwise, he couldn't embarrass Ye Lingxi. Ye Wuchen stood up, his sword still remaining. "Why, you want to hit me?" Qiao looked at Ye Wuchen. The people around stopped one after another, showing a somewhat attractive appearance. Fuyun Janzong Civil War. No dust. Ye Tianzi's hand rested on Ye Wuchen's shoulder and gestured to him. He knew that these people and Ye Wuchen were both disciples of Fuyun Janzong. There was no need to leave Ye Wuchen at the gate because of this. Sorry. Ye Wuchen looked cold. Qiao looked at him with a smile. Ye Lingxi also said, "Forget it. Let's go." Zhesong said faintly. Qiao smiled, and the people at the first peak of Fuyun Janzong turned and left, and Luo Tianzi led the way. King Li, Chu Yan, Qianshan Mu, King Mengruo followed many others, and the Ji family smiled and raised their steps to join the fun. The surrounding crowd looked at Ye Tianzi and others, whispered, and then many people followed Luo Tianzi and went to have fun, while the crowd here gradually dispersed. At this time, in the void, a group of strong people came from far away, and it was Ye Fuxian and others. In the air, Ye Fuxian headed straight for where the Nandu King Palace was. When he was about to arrive, he saw the huge Beiping monster below, and then saw a lot of people walking towards the Nandu King Palace. Continue. Ye Fuxian opened his mouth and spoke towards the restaurant. Seeming to notice something, many people looked up and saw the arrival of Ye Fuxian and Wajiyu and others. Ye Fuxian. Many people show a strange color. Unfortunately, those people have just left, or maybe there is an activity to watch, but there are so many disciples of the great powers in the eastern wasteland, I am afraid that there is still no conflict. What is it? Ye Fuxian saw that the atmosphere was a little strange, and he couldn't help but ask. His eyes glanced far away, where there seemed to be King Li, Chu Yan and others. Those people are very arrogant. Liu Feyang sneered, and then briefly explained what had just happened. Ye Fuxian's eyes flashed, and King Li was not surprised by it. This King Wangsun has always been haunted, and he is getting more and more disgusted. However, the contradiction between the first peak of Fuyun Janzong and Ye Wuchen seems to be more acute, otherwise the Song and Qiao would not be like this. Uncle Ye, is Master here? Ye Fuxian asked Ye Tianzi. Come here, at the inn. Ye Tianzi nodded. Okay, take the Master to the palace. Ye, I will go first. Ye Fuxian said loudly, then his body flickered, and a group of people went to the palace. Many people in Nandu Wenshan and the Nandu family, here he is also following him. A group of people whistled in the air, in front of them, Luo Tianzi and the others are also mighty. Looking back at the crowd behind them, they saw Ye Fuxian and the others in the void. Luo Tianzi stopped their steps, turned around, and saw a row of empty figures. Luo Tianzi's eyes were extremely cold. He already knew what was happening in Donghai City, but couldn't do anything about it. Today, Ye Fuxian brought people from the Nandu family to the family. What does it mean? Ye Fuxian, King Li and the others looked at the empty figure. The people behind them all showed an interesting look. Is it finally here? Moreover, these people were invited by Luo Tianzi to enter the palace. I am afraid that Ye Fuxian is very upset. But these people don't seem to care about Ye Fuxian's attitude at all. When people looked at Ye Fuxian didn't look at them, but walked directly over their heads. At this moment, the smiles on the faces of King Li and the others froze there, looking at the void one by one. The figure walked directly. No glance at them. It was different from the image they had imagined, but slightly different. What does it mean? Qiao frowned, very displeased, and Ye Fuxian passed right above them. Ye Fuxian continued to move forward and came to the Nandu King Palace. The guards saw Ye Fuxian and others coming to avoid him. Then, he saw Ye Fuxian standing in the sky above the Nandu Royal Palace. Luo Tianzi and King Li and others approached the palace and stared at Ye Fuxian coldly. I don't know how many strong people gathered around them. At this moment, their eyes were on Ye Fuxian. The palace is blocked, and no one is allowed to set foot in it, Ye Fuxian said. Yes. The 9 princes nodded and then spread out of the palace. The crowd is in an uproar. King Li and other powerful figures from the eastern wasteland were preparing to enter the palace with Luo Tianzi, but Ye Fuxian was standing on top of the palace and wanted to block the Nandu palace. What does it mean? Was it against the main forces in the eastern wasteland? Many people show their sharp eyes. Ye Fuxian is so strong in the face of the eastern wasteland. The people of the Qin dynasty, Dongba Zong and Fuyun Janzong frowned. Qin Li looked at Ye Fuxian with a sneer and said, Ye Fuxian, Luo Tianzi invited me to enter the Nandu King Palace, what do you mean? Today I asked Luo to come and resolve Nan Daogo's situation, but you stand with the Luo surname, what do you mean? Ye Fuxian asked Qin Lidao. Who are we with and when do you need to ask? Chiao looked at Ye Fuxian, the person in the hut, too wide. From now on, the Nandu King Palace will no longer be called Luo, and will return to the Nandu royal family. After the Nandu King family, I will inherit this royal palace. From now on, no one is allowed to set foot in this royal palace. Ye Fuxian was cold. To them. Chiao glanced at Prince Ye Fuxian. No. Ye Fuxian looked at Chiao, and Leng Ao said, in my opinion, I am a disciple of Kotang. Chiao's eyes froze. He from the eastern wasteland naturally understood the weight of these words. Ye Fuxian's meaning is clear. If his army like Fuyun Janzong was involved in this storm, then it would no longer be Ye Fuxian's personal property. Annoyance, he is Ye Fuxian, is the identity of the hut. Kotang disciple. The people in Nanduguo didn't understand the weight of these words, but they just wanted to know, what place is it? What if I have to enter? Zongsong looked at Ye Fuxian. As Fuyun Janzong's first peak sword, he naturally has his own pride. You can try. Among the crowd, a voice came out, and then several figures came out, and a white and clean-headed person, like a handsome and outstanding scholar. Chapter 305, A Tooth for a Tooth. Thatched Hut, Jiu Dongyu. Behind him was Zhu Ye and Luo Fan. 3 thatched hut princes appeared in the Nandu kingdom, and Jiu Dongyu personally came. Broken eyes stared at Jiu Dongyu, who defeated Lu Nanshan at the Dongqing Academy. Unless the top giants appear, who can defeat him? Since Jiu Dongyu appeared here, many things had already been destroyed. At this moment, Qin Li and the others were all silent. Since that war, Jiu Dongyu's status in the eastern wasteland had long been unrivaled. Many figures of Nandu Guo saw the figure that appeared, thinking what kind of character is this person. His appearance turned out to be momentarily silent inside and outside the palace. The people from the top forces in the eastern wasteland did not dare to speak. 3 siblings. Ye Fuxian looked at Jiu Dongyu and the others with a smile. The 3 brothers came alone, and he naturally calculated, and his heart was warm. After hearing this, everyone's eyes widened, and it turned out that it was Ye Fuxian's teacher who came. Today, the complaint of my little brother in Nandu Kwok, whoever joins the top forces in the eastern desert, is the enemy of the hut. Jiu Dongyu looked around the crowd calmly and said, next, you just need to take a look. In calm words, there is a domineering incomparable. The top troops from the eastern wasteland, just watch. The people in Nanduguo were shocked. Ye Fuxian's big brother seemed to be stronger than anyone in the eastern wasteland. Have they ever thought wrong before? Cottage even cares about what we do. A voice came out. It was Qin Li's voice. His words caused the approval of Fuyun Janzong and the others, and they all stared at Jiu Dongyu. Jiu Dongyu glanced at Qin Li and said, yes. The response was only one word. Qin Li's smile froze, and everyone looked at Jiu Dongyu. Really familiar with thatched cottage style. The atmosphere seemed a bit stiff. Qin Li didn't say anything. Even though he was Sun Qin Wang, he was not qualified to have the same line as Jiu Dongyu. His father's words were similar. At this time, a row of figures flashed in the palace, and it was the powerful people of the king's palace in Luo Jun who came to them. After He Yulu led the people in the king's palace, he had practiced Luo Junline. Although he has a big prejudice against Luo Junline, he still hopes that Luo Junline can kill Ye Fuxian in this battle. He Yulu looked at Jiu Dongyu. Was it the 3 students in the hut? If not for the cottage, how could Ye Fuxian force his daughter He Zairo? It was because of the cottage that his daughter was forced to kill, but he didn't even have the ability to avenge her. Ye Fuxian and Luo Junline both appeared in the sky above the palace, and people gathered in the distance. For a while, I don't know how many strong people there are. Those who hang the king's palace, retreat. Jiu Dongyu looked at He Yulu and others beside Luo Junline, and spoke indifferently. He Yulu's eyes lit up, leaking Jiu Dongyu. I'm here to watch the war. He Yulu looked at Jiu Dongyu. Back off. Jiu Dongyu spoke again, slightly colder. He Yulu was released with anger, and the strong people in the Temple of Suspension were all angry. My second brother is gentle and kind, so only one person died in Song City. My third brother is not very good at talking. Luo Fan spoke coldly behind him and killed his younger brother. It won't be easy to be clever with the sisters other than Ershi. They didn't know much about Master Swordmaster, but how could they not understand the characters of the second and third brothers? Although the two listened to the teacher, the second and last sisters were girls, and they were gentler on their bones. Stronger. Around, the people from the top forces in the eastern wasteland looked at Luo Fan. The woman smashed the gates of the East Keen Academy as soon as she arrived at Choge, threatening to stop the debate at the East Keen Academy. Zuawangdian's face was embarrassed, and he Yulu waved, I believe that the hut can abide by the agreement. Ye Fusion and Luo Junlin agreed that the loser would die, but the cottage would have the ability to change the rules, and he was naturally afraid. After the corpse, he led the people in the palace to leave the area, leaving the place empty, ready to go to Ye Fusion and Luo Junlin. Your people, do you want to retreat? Luo Jun's eyes fell on Ye Fusion's body, and he said, Don't worry, finish first. Ye Fusion smiled, looked at Ye Tianzi, and said, Senior. Beside Ye Tianzi, a figure appeared. When he saw it, Luo Tianzi's eyes were glued to it. It was Mohe, the former protector of the Nandu kingdom. What's to do with this again? Many people in Nandu country wondered. Mohe emptied his body and walked over to Ye Fusion. Although he was blind, he felt very sharp, faced the people of the Nandu kingdom, and said, I am Mohe, the old royal guard of the Nandu kingdom. This statement made the eyes of many people freeze. People from the old royal family, protectors of majors. Luo Tianning is the servant of His Highness Nandu. At that time, His Majesty, I, and Luo Tianning stepped into the ancient world together. Nan Dao ruled and stole the throne. Mohe calmly recounted, Luo Tianzi's complexion was blue, and he said coldly, Nonsense. Seniors go back first. Ye Fusion said to the teacher, and looked at Luo Tianzi, and continued, what the teacher said is true or not, so what happened in Donghai city that year? I was canon to you back then, what can you say about your resistance? Luo Tianzi said coldly. Well, it looks like you were a gift to me then. Ye Fusion smiled and said, since this is the case, I am also a gift to you now, and I can kneel before my master after death, and repent forever. You. Luo Tianzi's face was ugly. Ye Fusion wanted to move it before he decided to fight with Luo Junlin. Put it down. Ye Fusion coldly ordered, and Yin Zuwei stepped forward, and went straight to Luo Tianzi. A terrible chill came. Luo Tianzi thought of the death of 6 emperors like Yun Chuguo, and his body shivered slightly. Luo Tianzi responded quickly, his body emptied instantly, and he wanted to leave as lightning. But at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared from the crowd and stood right in front of Luo Tianzi. This is a woman covered with ice. He glanced at Luo Tianzi, and the next moment, Luo Tianzi felt a chill from beginning to end. He entered directly, and then his body froze and turned into a statue in the void. The woman grabbed onto the void, led Luo Tianzi's frozen body to Ye Fusion, and a group of princely figures appeared behind her, all of which were extremely terrifying. Yin Zuwei froze, but did not expect him to come. This sudden change happened too quickly, but Luo Tianzi was caught and there was no resistance. The woman who caught Luo Tianzi looked at Ye Fusion and bowed, Lan, meet sun. Meet the sun. The other princes also bowed, and Ye Fusion was also surprised. The other party called him son, and it was naturally sent by the empress. That woman turned out to be very strong in Nandu state. Ye Fusion. Luo Junlin's breathing was extremely loud, and he looked directly at Ye Fusion. You don't follow the rules. He Yulu frowned. Ye Fusion glanced at Luo Junlin, but then said to He Yulu, since Luo Junlin is a disciple of the King of Kings, I followed the rules of the Eastern Wasteland and challenged him. After saying that, he looked at Luo Tianzi. Luo Tianzi's eyes were full of anger, looking at Ye Fusion. However, Ye Fusion didn't care at all, and said lightly, are you desperate? Dreamed that Luo Junlin defeated him, and then continued to sit on the southern Dojang mountain. Imaginary dream. Not to mention that he will win this battle, even if he loses, there is still nothing wrong with Luo Tianzi. What did Luo Tianzi do to him, and now how to return it? It's gone, Ye Fusion said. Yes, Lan nodded, and then slammed into Luo Tianzi's body. At that moment, an extremely terrifying icy willpower invaded Luo Tianzi's body. He screamed, cold to the bone marrow, and the body was constantly shivering. There is still a deep fear. As an emperor, was he abolished today? At this point, he couldn't accept this reality. He is the king of Nandu and the emperor. Many eyes fell on Luo Tianzi's body, staggering and shocking. The emperor of the Nandu kingdom was just left behind. The battle hasn't started yet, and Ye Fusion directly ordered the removal of Emperor Tianzi. No one expected it to be like this, and Luo Tianzi didn't expect it either. No. Luo Tianzi felt that the cold had damaged his internal organs, and his brows were covered with frost. He felt a loss of strength and he was very desperate. At this time, he remembered the previous scene in his mind. He wrote the will in the study room. At that time, he was the son of heaven, and the whole earth was the land of the king. Today, the situation was completely reversed, and Ye Fuxian did not give him any hope. He died too. Ye Fuxian pointed his finger at Hua Xiang. At this moment, Hua Xiang stagnates. In fact, when he saw Luo Tianzi abolished, he already knew his fate, and he didn't even dare to run away. As long as you run away, Ye Fuxian will immediately notice. With a quick pass, Hua Xiang actually knelt directly on the ground. As the peak of the sky, he should not be so boneless, but watching the elimination of Luo Tianzi in front of him, can imagine the impact. Fear overcame bones. I was only ordered to act for forgiveness. Hua Xiang knelt down for mercy. Ye Fuxian stood in the void, his eyes were very cold, and he was ordered to act. Ridiculous reason. Without forgiveness, Hua Xiang, like Luo Tianzi, was simply abandoned. Hopeless. Despair, of course. Ye Fuxian had experienced this despair. When Chia Fang, the head of the East China Sea government, announced his intentions, it was like a storm on a sunny day. No one could understand how desperate he was at that moment. Now, for someone's sake. Chapter 306, Showdown. Nan Dukuo, the eyes of countless people stared at the abolished Luo Tianzi and Hua Xiang. There was an unreal feeling. Without the ability to resist, Ye Fuxian said a word, leaving the emperor in power. They took a deep breath and looked at Ye Fuxian again, with a domineering style, blood for blood, and tooth for tooth. Luo Tianzi once left him without a trace of resistance, and today, he made Luo Tianzi feel the same despair. Everyone thought that Ye Fuxian would settle his grievances with the Nandu kingdom after the fight with Luo Junlin, but he did not, and he did not give Luo Tianzi any hope, as Luo Tianzi did to him. Ye Fuxian thought that he would return after having absolute strength, but the killing made him understand that Luo Junlin and Luo Tianzi were still secretly thinking about his life, even if he had arrived in Donghang, which made him determined. No, let's play with Luo Tianzi and Luo Junlin again. Since you're doing this, it's simpler. He originally intended to use the potential of the thatched hut to challenge Luo Junlin and kill him. Then he would use the 7 great emperors of Kangye to defeat Luo Tianzi to completely solve Nandu's problem. However, it was impossible for everything in this world to be as he expected. The 6 emperors of the Yunchu kingdom really betrayed them, but the prince of the Lulan kingdom obeyed, so things became simpler. Little Master is very serious. It seems that what happened that year was a thorn in his heart. Among the crowd, Luo Fan whispered, and he saw Ye Fuxian for the first time. Put it on you. Zhu Ye whispered softly. Since they had all arrived in the Nandu kingdom, they naturally knew what was going on. It was inexcusable that a son of a country would bully a boy in such a way. Well, no wonder the method is so difficult. Luo Fan nodded. Jiu Dongyu looked at the side of the palace calmly. At this moment, Ye Fuxian had a chill in his body. He was handsome, showing a cold killing temper, just like him. The teacher once warned them that he was armed with a sharp weapon and committed suicide, but he also believed in the word to commit all crimes. As the king of the Nandu kingdom, Luo Tianzi treated Ye Fuxian in this way. It seemed that he was a sharp weapon and used this method to play with the fate of a young man in such a way. There is no mercy in his heart. Such a heavenly son should be beheaded. Even if Ye Fuxian loses today, he will shoot Luo Tianzi. How many crimes in the world you can commit, you can never cut, but because it happened to the people around him, he will use the sharp sword in his hand to control the criminal law to get rid of evil. Ye Fuxian looked at Luo Tianzi mercilessly, only indifference. On the day when you issued the will, did you ever think about today? Ye Fuxian asked. Luo Tianzi was still shaking. How could he think of this day at that time? After all, it was left to left. Rob. He doesn't believe in fate, but fate ends up messing with him. Are you sorry? Ye Fuxian glanced at Luo Tianzi and Hua Xiang, an emperor and minister of power, who played with applause during his youth. Regret that. When later she regretted that everything had passed, Hua Xiang still remembered the scene when Ye Fuxian set foot in the Nandu family. He sat high in the first place and watched the handsome young man enter. It had only been 2 years, and now, the other party was playing with its fate. Can we start? The gloomy voice came out. Ye Fuxian turned his eyes and looked at Luo Junlin, and at this time Luo Junlin's body was constantly filled with mania. He witnessed all of this, and he couldn't change it all. At first, as a prince, he could decide the fate of Ye Fuxian, but now Ye Fuxian is a cottage, and there are many princes who work for him and determine the fate of Nandu. Today, only he has the opportunity to kill Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion looked calm, in a windless white suit, his black hair fluttered. At this moment, the vast world seemed desolate, only two people facing each other. Luo Junlin, the legendary prince of the Nandu kingdom, was the twin of Soul and Soul. He was appointed a prince in his youth. The future king of the Nandu kingdom was admired and worshipped by many. Some noble people, which means him. Luo Junlin really showed his light. He was the first person in the land of 100 nations to let the eastern wasteland come and accept him as a disciple. On that day, when the powerful King Palace came, Luo Junlin was accepted as a disciple. What is the view of the emperor to come? Without Ye Fusion, Luo Junlin would be an absolute legend of the Nandu kingdom. However, God seems to have deliberately arranged an opponent for him. The man who came out of the East China Sea fled against the imperial decree, entered Kangye, returned with a stick and method, and listened to the Wind Party. Luo Junlin was accepted as a disciple by the Palace of Suspended Kings, and still couldn't stop the light. After that, the troops of the Kangye kingdom and the eastern wasteland came and captured the people. That day, it was said that Luo Junlin and Hiziro were in Kangye. The two seemed to be battling their fate. From their first meeting at the East China Sea Academy, they were cursed. After Luo Jun came to be king, Ye Fusion showed his temper. So, today, they stand face to face. Ye Fusion waved his hand, and immediately the surrounding Yanzhuwei retreated, surrendering on the battlefield. On top of the Nandu King Palace, there were only two people standing proudly. A wild breath came out, and the prince's intent bloomed. Luo Junlin, he stepped into the heaven realm 1 year ago, and now he is in the lower heaven, the second level heaven. The 9th level sky position, even if it is only the second level, is still 4 small realms higher than Ye Fusion's 7th order law phase. Between them, there is a huge realm gap between the law phase and the celestial position. You are Fusion, how do you make up? So far, Luo Junlin doesn't understand, except for relying on the hut, Ye Fusion beats him with confidence. The difference in realm is also the reason why Xie Song and Qin Li and others think Ye Fusion will lose. As long as the huts are not involved, the kings and palaces will not be so extravagant. He was no ordinary person in the sky. He was a strong person in the ordinary sky. He had not won the fortune of the prince in the ancient world. His strength would be much worse. In the face of the owner of the will of the Lord, the distance between the celestial position and the state of law will become instantly smooth. The next moment, Luo Junlin released his Faxiang. An enormous stone fire phoenix. This phoenix flint was tens of meters long and enveloped the space. Its surface flowed with a terrifying red flaming luster, and the fiery glow that flowed through the beautiful feathers was like lava flames. From his body, much of the prince's will could be felt. Luo Jun came to the twin soul, phoenix, and stone man, and this aspect of the law is that he was born from the union of twin souls, and at the moment of blooming, Ye Fusion felt a very hot fire and terrible gravity. The aura between heaven and earth rushed towards Luo Junlin's body and the stone fire phoenix furiously. At this moment, Luo Junlin is like a generation of true kings, who came to the world. Very strong. Many eyes were on Luo Junlin. Today Ye Fusion was so strong that he directly abolished his father and defeated everything. At this moment, Luo Junlin was afraid of the endless fury, which was burning with the phoenix stone fire. There was a terrifying fire in his eyes and pupils, looking at Ye Fusion. A terrifying pressure fell on Ye Fusion's body, countless eyes stared at him, and he saw a handsome figure standing against the wind. The next moment, a bright light waved, it was Wang Hu's luck. The luck of the fiery red fire prince, followed by the luck of the purple thunder roaring in the void. And then, the sharp gold luck, the heavy earthy yellow luck, the green wood-like luck, the roaring storm full of tears, and the icy frost. Just for a moment, the 7 colors of light shook and straightened up into the sky. At this time, Ye Fusion was bathed in a princely atmosphere of complete attributes. When he was young, he was like a prince, with a thin body standing there, but it was shocking. Qin Li, Chu Yan, Qian Shenmu, and Qin Mengruo looked at Ye Fusion. This talent is truly a demon. This was indeed a demonic character who broke the ancient world records and let Kotang Jiu Dongyu personally invite him. But can the power of talent fill a gap in the world? Boom! A wild breath erupted from Ye Fusion's body, and the far face bloomed. Behind Ye Fusion, an extremely terrifying ape god phantom appeared, full of flowing terrifying luster, a flowing golden and earthy luster, and faintly emitting a thunderous purple light, a powerful asterisk. The outline on the ape's body was like that of a true dragon, behind it was a pair of bright golden wings that covered the sky. It is the golden winged Darping's wings, but above the laws of Ye fusion, it seems to have changed shape, become bigger and full of power and beauty, and is perfectly integrated with the body of the ape. Amazing and powerful, this is the feeling of this far phase to everyone, as if above this far phase, there are various forms of high-level monsters. Ye fusion's body seems to be integrated into the far, and a lot of the prince's wealth is also integrated into it. Many people in this legal phase were shocked and speechless, but it was this momentum that gave people the impression that they were unmovable. Since Shaoxi started, he hasn't really fought. It seems that today, he can see his strength. Luo Fan said with a smile. Although Ye fusion has become famous in the eastern wasteland, but against Qianshan Mu, it is with a rhythm, against Qin Mang, one shot surged. Today, the battle with Luo Junlin was finally able to see Ye fusion's fighting strength. Jiu Dongyu stared ahead and challenged the Heavenly King Palace with the seventh order method. Luo Jun stepped forward, the rock fire phoenix flapped its wings, and then, above the sky, a sharp meteorite appeared, and above it, a terrifying flame of light enveloped the sky. Kill, Luo Junlin spoke coldly, his voice full of killing intent. Spell, Skyfall. As his words fell, countless sharp fire meteorites descended from the sky, and wind spells followed, covering the sharp rock like a hill and crashing into Ye fusion's body. Ye fusion looked up, each meteorite weighed hundreds of kilograms, but the bottom turned into a sharp thorn. If hit, it will be miserable. Chapter 307, Combat Effectiveness. Ye fusion stretched out his hand, and a storm came. In his palm, there was a terrible storm and a thunderous purple dance. His eyes were like a purple light, and the aura of madness that had gathered in his palms was woven into a terrifying pattern, spinning like a storm, and there was a faint magic spell condensed and born. This. Everyone was shocked to find that Ye fusion's hand held two kinds of spells together. The left hand was gathering a terrible hurricane, and the right hand was the terrifying thunder dragon which was gradually taking shape, as if it was described, without end. The lightning turned into a thunderbolt, shrouded in the direction of the meteorite that fell in the void, and everything was locked in the thunder. In addition, storms and thunder dragons grew wild. Little Master studying carving. Zhu Ye's eyes flickered. Ye fusion carved the sky with his spiritual power. Without the engraving paper and engraving pen from the engraving master, he used an extremely powerful spirit and super aura. Perception, engraved in the air, released spells beyond its realm. Engravers and summoners who could describe the void had something in common. When their spiritual power and their ability to perceive auras were extremely strong, they could engrave spells in midair. Of course, the birth time of the spell would be much slower. A spell that releases a suitable level can bloom instantly, but if you need to carve a spell that exceeds a level, you need to consolidate a stronger aura and control it with overbearing mental strength. There is a slight error in it, and the enchanted spell will collapse. Die failed. Boom. An extremely terrifying coercion descended. Luo Junlin controlled the appearance of the spell. Ye fusion didn't choose to dodge his spell attacks, but gathered his spells. Proud. The terrifying sharp stone descended with flames. Ye fusion stepped into the void, stepped out of the opponent's spell, then he exploded with his right hand, and the sound of the dragon blooming, like the roar of a real dragon, and the terrible cry of an elephant. This punch directly hit a sharp rock. The next moment, a purple dragon appeared, covering a vast space, covering all the falling meteorites. Among them, a truly terrifying dragon giant appeared and collapsed. And then, destroy everything. Thunder Dragon Eater Spell, Gonglong Jiangming Martial Arts. Zhu Ye said, he read thousands of books, thousands of spells in the chest and stomach, hidden in the chest and stomach, he knew too much about the spells in the book hole above the hut. Now, much has been transcribed. The spell used by Ye fusion at this time is the sky-level magic biting the Thunder Dragon, and the powerful martial arts dragon, Jiangming. The martial arts fused and exploded simultaneously in one strike. They complement each other and burst into even more powerful forces. Stacked attacks are much more powerful than scattered attack power. For a split second, several meteorites fell, exploded and appeared. Cracks, and at this moment, Ye fusion's left hand spell bloomed, a hurricane rolled over, crushing and dying, and in an instant the meteoric chalk sky flew and extinguished, turning into endless dust. Handsome. Luo Fan praised, the young master's response was perfect. A huge gap, but directly solved the opponent's way of attack. It seemed that no matter whether it was magic or martial arts, the young master was perfect. Coupled with his all-status talent, magician, being a brother was under pressure. The people in the eastern desert such as the twilight of Qianshan, Qin Mengruo, and Chuye are also paying serious attention, and there is a slight wave in their hearts. This is also the first time in the true sense that Ye Fusion has fought at full strength. King Li had previously said that Ye Fusion had never before proven themselves in battle. Today, they saw Ye Fusion's fighting ability, and with just one hit, they had revealed the power of the evil spirit. Luo Jun looked at Ye Fusion indifferently. Since Ye Fusion dared to challenge him, it was impossible for him to not be able to take a single blow. A violent fiery aura condensed and produced. The stone fire phoenix flapped its wings and flew forward. There was fire like magma flowing in the void and headed towards Ye Fusion's body. The magma flames that burned the red space. Like it could burn all existence. In the vast void, there was a stream of firelight, around Ye Fusion was covered, and he was instantly placed in a fiery red world. Luo Junline's phoenix bird, the stone fire dragon, continues to bloom like magic, and it is endless. The sun phase was released and hung overhead, and the sun seemed to contain the sun god tree, and the roots staggered. Ye Fusion's body seems to be turned into a solar furnace, which can melt everything in the world. Fire, inflammation, and ancient characters surrounded him. Prince Will Bloom Wild. He stood there, just watching the fire that could burn everything. Advent a terrifying fire like magma fell on his body. Ye Fusion's body seemed to be integrated into the sun, and he felt a terrible destructive power. Even if he practiced the fire method, he couldn't ignore the fire attack method. However, his own strength in the sun's fire will create a layer of defense for him. The sun god lord seems to be spreading out, absorbing the fire power of the attack, making the sun's light more and more. The bright, gradually, dazzling sun seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. Luo Junline's fire spell attack had no effect on Ye Fusion. In addition, the faint feeling is to increase the flame on Ye Fusion. As soon as he stepped in, Ye Fusion stepped out, and actually passed through the fire, walking towards Luo Junline, very arrogant, ignoring everything. The stone fire phoenix slapped its wings swiftly, but the spell turned into a sharp blade, stabbing towards Ye Fusion's body. Ye Fusion slapped his palm forward, like a furnace mold, sweeping everything away, and the sharp blade instantly burned. Many people look strange, and Luo Junline's fire attack seems to make him a wedding dress. The Stonefire Phoenix returned to its position and returned behind Luo Junline, without continuing to attack with spells. Luo Junline's eyes stared at Ye Fusion, who stepped closer, and his body was fighting. No matter how evil Ye Fusion is, as a celestial man, he is afraid of the fire. The Stonefire Phoenix method seemed to fuse with his body, and beautiful phoenix wings appeared behind him. Ye Fusion stood in the sky, facing Luo Junline's figure, and his eyes were filled with incomparable levity. A mirror image has a lot of weight. Ye Fusion's words fell, the water attribute spell of the void was born, turned into a mirror of nothingness, refracted on Ye Fusion's body, and the next moment, Ye Fusion's body moved. Just once, Luo Junline appeared thousands of figures all over his body, all of whom were Ye Fusion's shadows. Even more terrifying, in the thousands of mirror images, a psychedelic water mist appeared between the heavens and the earth, covering the breath, so that Luo Junline could not lock Ye Fusion's body according to the breath. With the movement of Ye Fusion's body, the vast void, Ye Fusion's endless figure swallowed Luo Junline, dazzling. Luo Jun came to the back, flapping the phoenix's wings, shaking his body. Boom! Ye Fusion released his spell, turned it into a mountain, and hit Luo Junline. Under the mirror image of thousands of spells, at this moment, it seemed that an endless mountain was hitting Luo Junline. Luo Junline's wings seemed to turn into sharp blades, swept across, the storm tore through the void, and passed through the mountains. It was a shadow, not a real attack, but he had to sweep. At the same time, Luo Junline controlled the spell to break the empty mirror, but found that the spell penetrated directly. Mirror Shadow is a water-based spell. It has no attack power, but can ignore direct attacks. Bang! Loud sound, the real spell fell, and was crushed by Luo Junline's attack, but at the same time, the light of thunder was already shining in this world. Boom! The purple light shone, the Thunder Dragon bloomed, and the Thunder Dragon explosion spell erupted again, as if thousands of Thunder Dragons were on their way to Luo Jun. Luo Junline's face is very ugly, under thousands of mirror image spells, attacking incarnations earn millions, although they are all fake. He must answer, otherwise, the real attack falls on his body and is enough to hurt him. Endless storms coalesced around Luo Junline's body. He was wrapped in a storm and destroyed everything. The real Thunder Dragon landed in the hurricane. The terrifying power of thunder and typhoon were intertwined. Luo Junline continues to soar into the sky with a typhoon. Then, I want to get out of this spell. Ye Fusion didn't let it out at all, and endless winds rolled onto his body. At the same time, Ye Fusion's dragon chanting technique erupted, and he suddenly brought the dragon elephant towards Luo Junline's body and killed him. Luo Junline was caught in the spell, and could only take defensive measures, not active attacks. Luo Junline, who was in the heavenly realm, was actually suppressed by Ye Fusion, which made many people show a strange look. Ye Fusion's every attack spell contains the will of the prince, reaching the level of the heavenly position, as if his territory is already a heavenly position, but illegal. Keenly stared at the battlefield, his face slightly unsightly. He still wondered if this battle Luo Junline would have a chance to kill Ye Fusion, but the strength that Ye Fusion displayed was beyond his expectations. Luo Junline was restrained everywhere, and his face was very ugly. Then he stopped the idea of rushing out. The endless spirits gathered in the body, the far face fused with the body, white skin appeared on his body. It is a rock. People keep getting bigger. Immediately, a 100-meter tall huge stone man appeared, and his body was still burning with terrifying flames, but the stone man's eyes were Luo Junline's eyes. He didn't resist, letting the spell fall on the body, causing the big stone man to shake, constantly crushing the stone skin on his body, but he couldn't hurt him, and the broken stone skin quickly recovered. As usual, it's like eternity. How did you beat me? Luo Junline roared, raising his palm and sweeping everything, trying to cover the entire void. However, at this moment, in the shadow of 1,000 spells, a long stick appeared on Ye Fusion's majestic body, and continued to expand. The virtual shadow of the ****** cape in Ye Fusion's body fused together, holding a long stick, revealing a sense of power that can't shake the heavens and the earth, the incomparable momentum accumulating in the body. After that, everyone saw a very beautiful sight. Within the mirror image of thousands of spells, thousands of shadows danced along with the wand, the situation roared, and the world changed. The scene in this scene is too beautiful. Chapter 308, Luo Junline's death. The virtual image of the ape god shone on his body. Ye Fusion danced his long stick, thousands of figures, and just looking at the momentum, it gave people a very arrogant feeling. Luo Jun stood proudly in the air. He saw thousands of figures, and the far face fused into the body. At this time, the gap between his huge body and the rock was like an endless magma fire, gushing out, his two large rocky palms stretched out, and a terrifying king swayed upwards, trying to pierce the sky. The outstretched palm suddenly shook, he shouted angrily at the void, and the endless flint falling between the heavens and the earth fell from the sky, covering the entire void. Bang, bang. I looked in one direction, the meteorite collapsed and shattered, and Luo Junline's gaze suddenly looked in that direction, looking at one of the shadows of King Zhong, just where the real body is, only really has attack power. Many eyes locked the figure at the same time, the stick danced, and the momentum of the heavens and the earth gathered madly, like a terrifying wave, with increasing strength. Luo Junline looked indifferent, the world around him changed, and he made a lot of noise. The strong in the heaven realm had an even stronger resonance with heaven and earth. Luo Junline raised his palm and grabbed Ye Fusion's real body. The stone shot in the palm shines like a prince's palm, which expands and can overwhelm everything. With this palm print, Ye Fusion suffered terror. Obviously, Luo Jun came to oppress with a spell. In addition, there is a rock that constantly covers his body in the heavens and the earth, and he wants to be buried in this space. Hanging the king's seal. The people of the top forces in the eastern wasteland are dazzling. The seal of the suspended king is a fusion art and martial arts attack. This power is very strong. The King of Seals reveals that the target being attacked will be placed in a terrifying gravity space, and all surrounding attacks will be actively absorbed. As it is now, Ye Fusion's body is at the absolute center of the attack power. It feels like the endless fire meteorite is going crazy towards Ye Fusion, but Ye Fusion seems to be unconscious, the body seems to have a beautiful rhythm, and every time the long stick dances, the explosive magic meteorite will come. Even though he had not yet entered the heavenly realm, the extraordinary confluence of heaven and earth resonated with the vastness of heaven and earth, and he was one of the heavens and the heavens. A powerful attack. People saw Ye Fusion's dancing body, beautiful rhythm, full of power beauty. With the meteorites continuing to fly and extinguish, Luo Junline's huge handprint arrived, covering the sky. The endless horror pressure is like an underground cage, and Ye Fusion's body is buried in it. At this time, Ye Fusion gave birth to an illusion. Within the palm of his hand, there was a king who stood tall and hated him. Ye Fusion only glanced at his heart when the water stopped, the dancing stick hit the house, the ape roared, the yin dragon shook the sky, and the turbulence of the sky and clouds tried to split the sky. Awaken. A terrible crackling sound came out, a huge palm print was split open from the middle, and the stone exploded in a frantic manner. However, the same extremely powerful force was shocked at Ye Fusion's stick and passed to the arm. Then the body was shaken. Return. Luo Junline's eyes were terrifying, staring at Ye Fusion, his hands were imprinted, and the endless aura surrounding him gathered around his body, and the boundless meteorites between the heavens and the earth fell. Behind Luo Junline, appeared an illusory megalithic figure, like a stone king. The second palm print came out and killed. At this moment, it seems that there are two kings appearing in the endless meteorites around the world, and at the same time, they are hurtling towards Ye Fusion's place. He Yulu looked at all of this indifferently. In this battle, Luo Junline will pinch Ye Fusion. The escape rod, and Ye Fusion's momentum became even more tyrannical. When the attack came, his mace cut and swept across the sky. A line appeared between the heavens and the earth, and the meteorite print in the sweeping area shattered and cracked. With a loud roar, more princes of heaven and earth appeared, stood in the sky, and at the same time shot out palm imprints. Ye Fusion's body seemed so small, even if he had an ape, it still seemed buried in the attack. This time, Ye Fusion stopped in the same place without moving, and the phase of the law was shocking. He also appeared behind him an enormous giant ape phantom, showing a sense of boundless power. The long stick rotated, and the potential of the heavens and the earth gathered in the long stick. When the devastating attack came, I didn't move. Prince-like palms descended from the sky, but seemed unable to cross his body, and continued to crumble and crumble. Why? A soft voice came out, and everyone was shocked to find that Luo Junline even vomited blood, but his body seemed to be completely burned. The extremely terrifying breath was filled with madness, and the breath was still rising. Becoming stronger, his hands condensed, the blood from his mouth continued to flow, the world roared, and a great prince hanging in the air appeared in the vast space. This. The strongest power in the eastern wasteland looked at this scene in shock, the true Hanging King seal, but the Hanging King seal in the Hanging King Palace is the power that the prince can give. Those who are under the prince can only play the prototype, such as Luo, like the attack before the king's landing, it is already the limit. But at this moment, a true king hung in the sky, facing Ye Fusion in the sky. At this moment, the breath of the sky in Luo Junline resonated, and a breath of intense terror entered Ye Fusion in the air. Very strong. Surprise. At this moment, inside and outside the palace, countless people stared at the shocking scene in the void. There is a king in the sky hanging in the sky, staring at Ye Fusion, trying to step on it. Very good. Keenly showed a smirk, and then glanced at the people in the hut. He had to see if the lodge didn't intervene. If the lodge intervened, the king of the Hall of Kings would have an opinion. Of course, even if Ye Fusion won the battle, the king of the King's Hall would still have an opinion. Didn't they plan this game from the start? The era of academies and thatched huts is over. Jiu Dongyu and the others stared at the battle. The young master has been strong enough. Every attack was an attack at the sky level. His posture caused him to explode into an even more powerful force. Under the sweep of the club, the turbulence, but unexpectedly, Luo Junline actually used the Hanging King seal. Even though this was the power he unleashed at the cost of injuring himself, it would likely pay a great price, but if this attack was successful, it might be fatal. Luo Tianzi and Hua Xiang leaked dead in front. They are dead, but still want to see Ye Fusion die. The vast space, countless eyes seemed to freeze on the picture, the chaotic space, the terrifying air currents, the power of destruction. It was hard to imagine that the battle scene of the two could be so amazing. Ye Fusion glanced at the shadow of the king that appeared in the heavens and the earth. Endless momentum gathered in his body and felt a tremendous pressure in his body. He did not despair, and even at this moment, his eyes were calm to the extreme without a wave. The baguette danced like before, and an incomparable breath covered her body. At this moment, his blood seemed to be burning and boiling, and the bones in his body seemed to growl. 8 Xiao, Long Yin, shocked the world. Above Ye Fusion's body, a ray of holy light appeared, shaking him, and Wang Hu's Qi Yun rushed into the clouds, as if everything was shrouded in it, as if integrated into one dazzling brilliance. What does this mean? All eyes flashed, staring at Ye Fusion's body. The wealth of those princes seemed to be activated and became more dazzling. Ye Fusion at this moment looked like a real king, instead of relying on the will of the prince. His body rotates, the stick dances, the situation changes color, the endless Qiyun prince turns into light, rushes to the stick, and the endless power of the world merges. At this moment, it seems that he is the master of the heavens and the earth. Okay. Loud footsteps came out, Ye Fusion stepped into the void, the ape flew in the sky, and held a long stick in the sky. Kill. Luo Junlin looked at Ye Fuxian, he shouted angrily, spitting blood again, and the king hanging in the void took out a palm print, flooding Ling Tian, leveling everything, and trying to kill Ye Fuxian on the spot. The ghost image of the great ape god seems to be in harmony with Ye Fuxian. He raised a long stick in the sky. Wherever he passed, the meteorite exploded wildly. Ye Fuxian's body descended into Luo Junlin's sky, glanced at him indifferently, then chopped down with a long stick, and then attacked the ninth strike with the fourth strike, unifying the emperor's tactics to gather the sky. Attack and slash. The sudden terrible seal of King Wang came and killed, but everything that the long stick passed was blown up and destroyed. The long stick seemed to ignite a fire, and it continued to slash at Luo Junlin's body. Looking at the long stick that came from overhead, Luo Junlin showed a hint of despair. The long stick continued to dilate in the pupil of the pupil. Luo Junlin shouted, "I don't want to." Bang! With a loud sound, the stone body shattered, and Luo Junlin's body exploded with stone, and it disappeared, as if it disappeared from the void. Between the heavens and the earth, there is only a handsome figure standing there, a giant asterisk ape with a ghost shadow floating behind it, arrogant to the world, giving people an unshakable illusion, as if they do not see a strong state of law. This is an emperor who facing the world. The turbulent airflow between the heavens and the earth disappeared, the meteorites disappeared, and the energy of the Prince Ye Fuxian converged, so as not to let others feel the will of his emperor. Although he motivated the emperor's tactics, but was hidden by the prince's energy, only hidden by the prince's energy, only others. It is believed that they did some vigorous exercise. There was a rumbling sound, and there were stones falling on the ground of the royal palace below, but everyone's eyes were still staring at the void, as if they were reluctant to move away from Ye Fuxian. Luo Junlin was so powerful that he used the hanging king method to hang the king in the heavens and the earth, and when people thought Ye Fuxian would be eliminated, he simply hit and ended the battle. Luo Junlin was killed on the spot. Chapter 309, The End. Endless figures gathered inside and outside the palace, but at this moment they were silent. Over the Nandu Palace today, Prince Luo Luolin and Ye Fuxian peaked and were killed. At this time, many people in the Nandu kingdom remembered the scene when Luo Junlin was once accepted as a disciple by the King of Kings, and the emperors of all nations came to the north. Tonight, the legendary prince of the Nandu kingdom has only reached one more person. The peerless youth who came out of Donghai city and was chased away by Luo Tianzi and Luo Junlin, father and son. After returning, the princes obeyed and called him the Holy Son. His elder brother was standing there, and no one from the top forces in the eastern wasteland dared to move. He hit Luo Junlin in 4 areas in the field of law. If Luo Junlin could be called a legend, what about Ye Fuxian? Nandu country is completely over. Everyone has a thought in his mind. It was inevitable that the Nandu country would change hands. Luo Tianzi was written off, Luo Junlin was killed, and the fate of the Luo family would be completely rewritten. The people of the Nandu kingdom looked at Ye Fuxian, this magical young man who walked out of the Nandu kingdom's East Sea city. He defied the government 2 years ago and wrote his own destiny with his own pen. From now on, he will be Nandu. The legend of this land is not only that, with his talent, I am afraid that in the vast expanse of the East, there will be a stage of his own. The young man who was immortal like the emperor at the time of the battle seemed to be born extraordinary. Luo Tianzi's body trembled, and his desperate eyes gradually became empty. His son Luo Junlin has been the capital of Tianzong since his youth, and his life and soul are twins. In fact, this is true. Just like in the battle now, can anyone compare? However, fate is so cruel, Luo Arjun's admiration is so talented, why are people like Ye Fuxian, Donghai city, how can such a person be born? He hates it. If he can start again, he will go to the East China Sea to kill Ye Fuxian. But now regret is useless, hate, but weak. At this time, he remembered a lot of the past. He used to plan the layout, killed the Nandu emperor in the wilderness, and took his luck, and finally set foot in the realm of the prince, and succeeded him as the emperor of the country. He was unwilling to change his own life, but in the end it was empty. Seeing the peerless youth standing proudly in the void, at this moment he seemed so humble that the heavenly sun was like an ant. There were tears in the corners of Luo Tianzi's eyes. It's not weak. He just sighs that he's being unfair and makes a difference. How much did he pay today? Today, the most talented son-in-law was killed, he was written off, and he had to die. Don't want to. Zuawangdian He Yulu's face was gloomy, his fists clenched. He didn't care about Luo Junlin's death. Even though his daughter He Zairo begged him before he died, he also gave Luo Junlin a chance. As long as he killed Ye Fuxian in this battle, he would completely protect him, but he lost himself. It didn't kill Ye Fuxian. Compared to Luo Junline's death, he is more worried that Ye Fuxian is still standing there, not only alive, but also showing extraordinary combat power, attracting a lot of attention. Luo Junline was his disciple. He naturally understood the level of fighting strength of his disciples. Although he is not as good as the top criminals, he killed Luo Junline in 4 areas like Ye Fuxian. He doesn't know if the younger generation in the Eastern Wasteland still has. Others can do it, at least he doesn't know that there is such a person. This time was the best opportunity, but Luo Junline did not kill Ye Fuxian, and he wanted to take revenge in the future. Another murder. The price, is it affordable? Go. Turning around, He Yulu stepped away, leaving no sense to continue. Luo Junline is dead. What's wrong with Nandu Guo? The people of Nanduguo watched the palace of the powerful king leave, and they knew that the Luodo clan of Nanduguo was really ending. The suspended king palace directly abandoned them, and Luo Jun was dying. They didn't even say a word. No one knew the reason, but at least they knew that the people in the suspended king palace weren't as strong as Ye Fuxian Shiman. Wang Dianqiang retreated, who wouldn't dare. At this time, Ye Fuxian saw a step in the void, and everyone's eyes were on him. Ye Fuxian approached Luo Tianzi, and Luo Tianzi looked at him. At this moment, Luo Tianzi felt a little sad. As a Tianzi, he once thought of Ye Fuxian as a cricket ant. Now the other party was far above him, facing him. You are Fuxian. At this time, a clear voice came out. Ye Fuxian turned his eyes, and saw a shadow appear there, Luo Mengyan, the princess of the Nandu country. Ye Fuxian looked at him calmly. I didn't ask you to let him go, but this incident was controlled by him, my older brother in Huaxiang. Many people from the Luo family are innocent. Can you let them go? He never showed up, and he didn't plead with his father. He was very clear that this was impossible. People had to pay for what they did, but they couldn't be repaid by the Luo family. Rockwell is a descendant, so be a commoner in the future, Ye Fuxian said. Okay. Luo Mengyan was sad, but still nodded. Originally, his father's intentions involved all of Ye Fuxian's relatives. An old man that Ye Fuxian respected was killed. Then, his father and older brother also go to Kangye Kingdom and let Ye Tianzi hand over Ye Fuxian's teacher and teacher. Now that Ye Fuxian can't kill them all, what else can he say? Yin Ju, you take him to Donghai City, freeze in the Zihai Palace of the East China Sea Academy, kneel before the statue of my master, and repent. Ye Fuxian said. Yes, wise. Yin Ju nodded and then took Luo Tianzi and Huaxiang away. Tianzi and Quangxiang were now being carried away like ants. The emperor of a country will kneel in the Zivei Palace, and many people sigh for a while. I am afraid that the East China Sea Academy will become famous in the Nandu Kingdom. Ye Fuxian stepped back, stood in the sky above the palace, and looked around at the crowd. Luo Tianning stole the southern Daodu mountain and is now returning to the Nan Dao clan. I am Nan Dao Shan, who is a descendant of the former Nan Dao clan. In the future, he is the guilty son of Nan Dao. If I succeed in my training, I will also do the same. Best for Nandu country, hope Nandu country will be more prosperous. Ye Fuxian said in a loud voice, and then looked at Nan Dao Wenshan, smiled, and said, all right, it's all up to you. After all, he stepped aside with a smile. Nandu Wenshan took a deep breath, stepped forward, and came to the sky above the crowd, with mixed feelings in his heart. The ancestor was killed, and now Nan Dao Jingshan was finally returned to him. He thought of the scene of seeing Ye Fuxian for the first time. That day in King Luo Mansion, the young man was romantic, swan dress and beautiful. At that time, he appreciated Ye Fuxian a little, but he didn't expect it, it was short. In a short period of 2 or 3 years, Ye Fuxian will create a miracle and reclaim the mountains for him. Some of the old people in the Nandu family trembled with excitement, and the world finally returned to Nandu. Fortunately, Ye Fuxian did not remember to hate the entire Nandu family because of Nandaotai. Fortunately, Vajayu and his feelings were quite deep, otherwise how could the rivers and mountains be returned to their hands? See your highness. Many people inside and outside King Nandu King's court bowed to worship, and the guards knelt on one knee. See your highness. Seeing several people leading the way, more and more people saluted Nanduanshan. They know that although Nanduanshan may not be very high and not reach the prince, but Ye Fuxian is there. The position of this heavenly sun is as stable as Mount Tai, and no one can shake. Luo Tianzi ended up like this, who dares to move Nandojangshan? The sound of a mountain tsunami vibrated between heaven and earth. In the palace, the people of the Luo family died like faces, and even some people began to run away. Ye Fuxian's steps fell to the ground at this time. He stood beside Vajayu, who was holding his hand. Both hands clasped and smiled at each other. In their hearts, a stone fell. Being suppressed for a long time, Nandu's affair finally came to an end. Fusion, thank you. Hua Jayu's voice was soft and watery. He knew that Ye Fusion forgave the Nandu family and made him a son. Of course, it wasn't because of his feelings for the Nandu family. Nandautai treated him that way. It was all because of feelings for him. Would you like to make an appointment? Ye Fusion smiled at Hua Jayu. Vajayu has a flushed face. He glanced at Ye Fusion. This person, just now, just started to reveal his true form. Okay. Hua Jayu smiled sweetly, intoxicating. I take it seriously. Ye Fusion also laughed. In addition, Hua Fengyu and Nan Duan looked at them with a smile, and then looked at each other. They saw the comfort and joy in each other's eyes, and the children really grew now. They have climbed to the top and surpassed them. To Hua Fengyu, Ye Fusion was a disciple and son-in-law. To him there was no difference from his children. Thinking of the day when the soul of life was wiped out in Qingzhou city, Ye Fusion took him to the East China Sea, where master and apprentice depend on each other. At this moment, he felt the agony and it all passed. Now he only has one hope, hoping that Ye Fusion and Cu Flowers, two people, can always walk happily and peacefully. Life as a daughter and son-in-law, what is the need for a husband? King Li, Chu Yan, Qian Shanmu, King Mengruo, Jie Song and others all looked at Ye Fusion, with different looks, and a slight ripple in their hearts. Today's battle, although not in the East, but many people still witness that Ye Fusion's combat effectiveness has not been questioned since then. Seeing Ye Fusion and Vajayu standing together, Chu Yan lowered his head slightly, and a very complicated emotion was born in his heart. Turning silent, King Li and the others were about to leave. When they came to Jesong, King Li smiled and said, together. Jesong glanced at King Li, then nodded, okay. After all, people from the eastern wasteland came and went here one after another. Too many people in the crowd looked at Ye Fusion. Ye Tianzi, Ye Dunchen, Ye Lingxi, and Lin Yao also came. How could he miss it? At this time, her smile was bright and beautiful, and she secretly blessed the lovers. Chapter 310, Let me measure it for you. Jiyu Dongyu, Zua and Luo Fan all showed bright smiles. Deserves to be my teacher and brother. I have attitude. I want to make a face. Zuye gave him a disdainful look, and said, only you, my little master has reached your realm. Luo Fan glared at Zua and said lightly, brother, this time, my sister saw you in front of your younger brother to approve of you going down the mountain. After you return, you will retreat and train. I will travel back in the desert for a while. Quote. Zuye opened his eyes and looked at Luo Fan. Go. Jiyu Dongyu turned around and said lightly. 3 brothers, can we go like this? Luo Fan asked afterwards. It's here, my little master doesn't need us anymore. Leave some time for him. Jiyu Dongyu stepped away, and the princes of the ancient Lulan country were by his side. Come white clothes fluttered, Jiyu Dongyu left, Ye Fusion glanced over there. He didn't pass, and he didn't thank her. To him, Kotang's disciples were now his family. However, at this time, not everyone who stayed was happy. Today's battle, many emperors in the land of hundreds of countries came to watch the war, and their hearts were very restless, especially those who spent time chatting and drinking with Luo Tianzi. Ye Fusion saw them, but now that the overall situation was arranged, they had no chance of wanting the wall grass. I saw several figures stepping forward, all of them descendants, descending in front of Ye Fusion, respectfully bowing their heads. Ye Shao, I will wait to come and plead guilty. Ye Fusion looked at them, and all the emperors felt trembling. When they saw this scene, the people in Nanduguo were very emotional. Tianzi trembled in front of Ye Fusion. Go back to Ye Tianzi and Nandu Tianzi to discuss what to do. Ye Fusion waved and said that he didn't have time to get involved with these people. In the past of the Yanchu kingdom, they would give up their sins. Seeing Luo Junline's return and rebellion become faster than anyone, even Ye Lingxi and Ye Dunchen are hostages, these sons are here again, Ye Fusion is too lazy to interfere. Of course, these emperors did nothing to him, otherwise he would not choose to forgive them like the Chu emperor. Seeing Ye Fusion's indifferent eyes, the emperors nodded and said, yes. Say, back off with respect. In their hearts, aren't they full of emotions, like the young Faxiang, whose status is above the Son of Heaven, all the princes of tyranny are God. Ye Tianzi, Ye Wachan, and Liu Feiang came over. Uncle Ye. I'll help deal with things here. Ye Tianzi said. It couldn't be better. Ye Fusion laughed. Ye Tianzi is a heavenly son. It is natural to deal with these things, just to teach Chia Ji, but he is too lazy to care about these things. When will I be back? Liu Feiyang asked. Wait back when you're done with things here, Ye Fuxian said. Okay, now you also have strong guards around me. I will stay a little longer and return to the east. Liu Feiyang smiled, Ye Fuxian nodded, then looked into the palace, raised his footsteps, and there continue. Next, of course, the repair of the palace. Ye Fuxian came to the courtyard in the palace, where he saw Zhao Xiang. You're finally here. Zhao Zhang's eyes fell on Ye Fuxian's body, then he got up and said, You sit down. The left face doesn't have to be like that, Ye Fuxian said. Okay. Zhao Xiang nodded, are you blaming me? At that time, if he wasn't so kind to Ye Fuxian, or even gave orders, maybe things wouldn't have happened. Last time I asked the princess to talk to me. This matter does not blame the left side. Ye Fuxian shook his head, is the left side willing to follow me to Donghang? Zhao Xiang shook his head, I will not return to the eastern wasteland. Although I am an astrologer, this ability is generally hidden, otherwise it is easy to die early, and I will continue to live in Nandu. Okay, can the predecessor continue to be a phase and help me to help? Ye Fuxian said, the left phase is the phase, and many palace members are promoted by him. If he was willing to take pictures, Nandu's repair would be much easier. I hope I can do what I can, Zhao Xiang nodded, and Ye Fuxian raised his hand, thank you, Zhao Xiang. Zhao Xiang looked at the handsome young man, maybe he didn't know his future. Nandu country delivered a major overhaul, and all the restaurants and inns in Nandu King City could even hear Ye Fuxian's name. Every day, the world knows it. However, when everyone was talking about Ye Fuxian, he and Vajayu slipped away quietly, even master and mother and the rest of their lives did not know them. Of course, Luling Yingxue still followed them to protect them secretly. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. The East China Sea is limitless. There are ships sailing in the vast ocean, which appear very small in the sea, especially at night. At this moment in the sky above the East China Sea, there is a monster beating its wings, and the sky has a hazy dawn. Rays of red light emerged from the surface of the distant sea, shining on the surface of the sea, and the East China Sea seemed to be turning gold. Beautiful sunrise. On the back of the monster, the legs of a stunning beauty flexed arbitrarily and the lines were soft. Her dazzling face was reflected in the first light of the morning, like a fairy. But at this moment, there is a pair of hands on the woman's slender waist from behind. If you look, I don't know how many people are envious. It's really beautiful, but it's still not as good as my family's CU. Ye Fuxian said with a smile. Hua CU looked at him with various styles. We're almost there, Hua Jiu asked softly. Well, it should be coming soon. Ye Fuxian nodded gently, the red sky gradually lifted, the sea was shining, the beauty was extreme. In the distance, one could faintly see the island city. There is the city of Qingzhou, the hometown of Ye Fuxian, and the place where the two meet and fall in love. Now that the things in Kangye country have ended, Ye Fuxian wants to go back to Qingzhou city to check it out. He wanted to go to his house to try his luck and see if Ye Baichuan's bastard father had returned. Haifeng Dia rushed forward, and took the two of them to jump over the East China Sea and come to the shore without stopping, heading straight for Qingzhou city. This island town is as serene as ever, with its own story every day. After experiencing the violent waves that year, Qingzhou city gradually recovered. After the rebuilding of Yefu, it is still quite impressive. When Ye Fuxian arrived, he couldn't help but show a strange color when he saw the situation in Yefu. Can that bastard father really come back? The black wind statue landed in front of the mansion, and Ye Fuxian and Vajayu walked towards the door of the house. The guards outside the door saw the two in awe of their temperament. Ye Fuxian and Vajayu are no longer young girls. Even though they are already handsome and beautiful, how can they have a night and night temperament, and they can feel an extraordinary person with one glance. Moreover, the sharp eyes of the monster must be a powerful monster. Excuse me, who is Miss? Asked the guard. The people from Yefu have returned. Ye Fuxian asked. The son refers to the Ye Baichun family. They have been missing for several years. My lord rebuilt it here, said the guard. Fang Fu. Ye Fuxian asked. Well, master, no, my lord. Would you like me to speak to you? The guard said politely. Is Uncle Fang at home? Ye Fuxian asked. Not here, my lady lives here, said the guard. Ye Fuxian's eyes showed a strange color, it was the girl. Excuse me. Ye Fuxian laughed, and turned to Hua Jiu. Did you meet? Hua Jiu smiled and looked at Ye Fuxian. Ye Fuxian is squeezed in Vajayu's palm, this fairy is teasing himself. Did you just leave? Behind him, a voice came. Ye Fuxian turned around and saw the shadow of Qian running outside the door of the house. Feng Qingshu is now 19 years old. She was prettier and slimmer, taller and sexier. Ye Fusion looked at her with a smile, and said, Qingshu girl has grown taller. Feng Qingshu's beautiful eyes looked at Ye Fusion and Hua Jiu. Ye Fusion is a little more mature and more handsome, and the legendary girl from the former Qingzu Academy is now more dazzling and dazzling. Is it pretty? Feng Qingshu smiled. Compared to the beginning, he already knows how to meet. Well, much prettier. Ye Fusion smiled. Feng Qingshu smiled sweetly and asked, Are you still training at Tokai Academy? I wasn't there. Ye Fusion shook his head. When he was back with Zhao Xiang last time, he was a disciple of Donghai Zugong. Where are you? May I go to you if I have the chance? Feng Qingshu asked with a smile. Okay, I'm training in the thatched hut of Donghanging Academy. Ye Fusion smiled and responded, and Wajiu sighed in his heart. He could naturally see the emotion in Feng Qingshu's beautiful eyes, but he might not have noticed Donghanging what was the meaning of Academy hut. I wrote it down. Feng Qingshu nodded. At this moment, he didn't realize that this place might be a place that could never be reached. In a few days, news will come from Donghai city. After he found out the truth, I don't know how it feels in my heart. Then I will go first. Ye Fusion said. Alright, see you later. Feng Qingshu nodded. Take me to say hello to Uncle Feng. Ye Fusion waved to Feng Qingshu, then pulled Hua Xiu back behind Haifengdiao. The black wind carving spread its wings, and immediately flew into the distance. Feng Qingshu was still standing there, staring at the fading figure. See you soon, plain and simple, but still a little sad. Frustrated, behind the black wind carving, Hua Xiu smiled and looked at Ye Fusion, and said softly, refuse. Looking at Hua Jiu's narrow eyes, Ye Fusion nodded with a smile, yes, the girl used to be fit, now it's better, you see how long the legs are. Hua Jiu's eyes flashed, and then Zhao Yan glanced at her, and as she sat there, she stretched her crooked legs straight, and a pair of slender beautiful legs appeared in front of Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion's eyes brightened, and he said, Fairy, I will measure it for you. With a pair of hands that do not honestly lift, the beautiful and soft legs are full of elasticity, and they feel very good. Go to yours. Hua Jiu kicked lightly, quickly let go of the beautiful legs, the face was very red.